You know, I feel like a lot of this show could be resolved if parents just knew where their kids were. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. We've hit the 5th episode of It, Welcome to Derry, called 29 Neibolt Street. And hands down, this has been my favorite episode of the season. This is the episode of the season that should have started at the beginning, and I would be like, oh, I am now extremely locked in and waiting for whatever the hell this series has to give me. This is the sweet spot. This is the sweet spot of that perfect mix of putting in a dash of the CGI and not just focusing in on it and leaning in on it. It happens here, but when it happens, it's necessary and kind of adds to the fear as opposed to just being all of the fear. But this is hands down, this is the one. So we pick up at the end of the last episode where Shaw and Leroy, I'm going to just call him Lee, are hanging behind the glass and they're watching Dick go inside the mine of Tanlin. And we're now coming out on the opposite side of that where we're seeing that Daniel is having a bad time with that. He's foaming at the mouth. It is causing a director. The Shining or being in there as long as Dick was has had an effect on him. So they have to take him to the infirmary, get him some help. And they have to sort of get Dick back on the up and up to be like, hey, are you okay? Dick's like, no, we got it. Like, I'm not good, but we got it. It's at that point that Shaw has to finally tell Leroy what the plan is. Like, all right, look, here's what we're going to do. Now that we know where the markers are, we know where everything is, the goal is to shrink and reduce the sort of cage that's around Pennywise to be able to capture it and use it for our personal gain, our weapon. It's a terrible idea, but that is what Shaw is running off of. Leroy's like, cool, I get that that's the plan. He's really upset that Shaw allowed him to bring his family into Derry without giving him a heads up that it's a hunting ground for this entity that they use. And Shaw's like, well, hold on. I said bring your family to the base. You're the one who thought to bring them to Derry. And tit for chat, you could have been a little bit more forthcoming, like, hey, yo, come to the base because there's a kid-eating, well, human-eating monster that's running around Derry. But he didn't give him all the information. So he kind of left him a little bit out there to dry. So Leroy's like, I got to get my family out of Derry ASAP. Lily goes to visit Marge at the hospital, and Marge didn't throw Lily under the bus. She says, like, I told people that I did this to myself and that you were there to sort of help me and protect me so that I don't do it to the other eye. Say what you will, people believed it or not, but that is what I told them. She then says she's sorry that she didn't believe Lily before. Like, I've seen what it is, and now I am 100% in your corner. My bad. That's on me. However, question, is this thing going to come back? Because I would like it not to. At that point, Lily's like, even if it does, no matter what, you won't be alone if it does, which is not something Lily can actually promise. I don't know what gave her the idea, like, nope, you're going to always be with us. I know what she means because in the back end, we see that she sort of brings her into the group. But at this particular point in time, she doesn't know if that entity is going to show up or not without her being there. But Lily has a habit of making promises and doing things and getting people to rah-rah behind her when she shouldn't. Lily meets up back with the kids and tells her, like, Marge isn't going to blame me or whatever, even though everybody thinks that I did it. And Ronnie's like, well, why can't you just go to the police? Like, she's thinking of it still like, my dad's in trouble. Why can't you go to the police? And everybody, on all of the kids, are like, nah, that's probably not the best idea. Because if nothing else, she's just going to end up in Juniper Hill like Lily did. Like, that isn't going to be the answer to this. Because what she just went through, ain't nobody going to believe that. They all believe that at this point, if Marge was to go to the police or say that this entity did it, they're going to believe more that Lily coerced her into this. So they're like, that's just a bad idea. We're not going to go down that avenue. So they get to the clubhouse, and then they find that Maddie is there, seemingly alive and well. A bit paler than before, but seemingly alive and well. Maddie tells them that I've been down in the sewers of Derry. Like, I've been there holed up the whole time. And that's where the clown lives. That's where Pennywise lives. It keeps kids alive to feed on their fear periodically so that it never gets weaker, so that it stays strong all the time. This is what he is telling them. And he says that, like, I ran away, and I've learned that it feeds at night and sleeps during the day. So it has a cycle. I learned that pattern, and that's what allowed me to get free. A very thought out and deliberately specific plan. We'll see why shortly. Um, they ask about the kids, like, well, if you're alive, what about the others? And they're like, no, Teddy came into the sewers dead. Like, I saw him suck the brains out of Teddy in front of me. Like, he's good and dead. And Susie had her arm missing. She came down and bled out. Like, but Phil is still down there. Phil is still alive. Phil, he's not talking much, but he's alive down there. Like, very much alive. Super, super wink, wink, alive. It's at that point that Maddie's like, I don't want to go to the cops because they're going to put me back with my father, who, whatever my father did is far worse than me going back to the sewers. And I would much rather go back there than go to my father. I just don't know a world where any kid, I mean, I guess you could take it from Maddie's perspective, but any of the rest of the kids, you'd be like, we've seen what Pennywise does. Your dad, your old boy is worse than Pennywise? I call BS. But here we are, kids trusting each other. They believe in Maddie. He says this. So they're like, okay, no cops. Got it. While that's happening, the Native American tribe that is in protection of everything is having a meeting to discuss what's happening. Like, we're close. We're close to the end. There's this big sort of thing, seance that happens before Pennywise goes into slumber again. And we're close to it. We've had a little bit more of an uptick than normal, but everything still seems to be pretty contained. Get him back to sleep, and we got another 27 years to sort of rest. Then one of their members come in and say, hey, they got Daniel. Stuff's about to get real. So Rose has to go make her beeline and go talk to Shaw. While that's happening, they are doing a perp walk of Hank to make it to the bus that's going to take him to Shawshank, where he's basically getting transferred to the higher end prison, where once he gets there, they ain't gonna be able to find him again. He's about to board when one of the kids' fathers, actually I think it's the pair because he says kids as in plural, so I think it's the one that has the brother and sister. That father comes and takes a direct shot at Hank, but his gun jams, and then he gets hauled off and arrested, and they put Hank on the bus. Meanwhile, Charlotte is sort of onlooking this whole experiment, like, yo, I'm trying to get these papers, I'm trying to get you some time, just do what it is they ask, we'll get you out of this. What we have learned in that brief moment that the Native Americans were talking is that this entity, Pennywise, sheds its skin, and when it sheds its skin, it gets into the groundwater of the sewers and sort of becomes in the drinking water of people, and sort of starts having some of the adults acting out or acting in ways that don't really benefit Derry or benefit people. And so there are a lot of people who start seeing things in person, seeing things, and just the adults start getting messed up more. And so we see a little bit of that with Charlotte, seeing how this man is acting, this father is acting, and seeing how she's starting to see spirits of Pennywise sort of manifesting everywhere. There's a lot of manifestations that happen in this episode, but we're seeing that Derry is starting to just go batshit crazy. So Rose arrives to see Shaw, checks him, and be like, hey, what are you doing with my nephew? And he tells him, like, yo, your nephew's safe. It's going to be fine. We're going to release him. Maybe. When the operation concludes, we may go ahead and get rid of him. Let him go. Shaw then lets Rose know that, like, hey, I want to call BS a little bit. I told you before that I didn't remember anything about Derry until I got here. It's not entirely true. I didn't remember it to a point. Upon my physical and upon my everything that I was going through to get into the military, they administered a drug that allowed me the ability to remember all of a sudden. So about 5 years ago, I recalled everything that happened here. And in that, I thought, I remembered how utterly terrifying that thing was. And I remember that you were able to control it with what you and your family had done. You told me everything. You told me about the pillars. I remembered all of it. And so my brain was like, well, if I can go ahead and create a way to maintain and use that to our advantage, I think it would be a great military weapon to have. And Rose is like, clearly you don't remember everything, because if you did, you would know that this was the dumbest damn idea that you could possibly have. Like, you're not going to be able to weaponize this thing. And if you actually remembered how you felt and the feeling and the fear that it gave you, remember that you would want to get the hell out of Dodge and have nothing to do with this place. You wouldn't be here. He at that point then tells her, like, I know the location of the pillars. Like, Daniel gave it to me, not of his own accord. We had to do some digging, but we are aware of where everything is. To which Rose is like, okay, if you do, you're going to need my help. Let me go back. She goes back to get the shard, the dagger. So let me help you and lead you down there. To which Charles like, no, you're not going to be the one to protect her. In some cases, he does still feel for Rose and care about her. He's like, no, I can't do that. I can't have you go that. But she's like, okay, well then have Taniel go. So he is okay with Taniel sort of being with his military guard to go down to the sewers to start searching for these pillars that they have created to sort of maintain Pennywise. Rose goes to meet Taniel and deliver the dagger to him. And in that conversation, they're having Taniel's like, I told him everything except for there's one thing that he doesn't know. To which Rose is like, cool, keep that quiet because we have ears. There's a guard listening. Let's not talk about that piece yet. But she hands him the shard and says they have not inspected it. And so it serves no threat to them outside of when it gets into the sewer. So you're the only one that they're going to allow to use it. Nobody else is going to touch this but you. This is all on you. Then she takes off. Leroy finally makes it home, and he's like, hey, Charlotte, I know I put us here. Listen to me. Stop talking. Let me just get this out. But we need to move. We need to get up out of here. We can't be here. And Charlotte's like, okay, cool. So he moves both Will and Charlotte off base, which Will is a little bit hesitant to do because he doesn't want to leave his friends in a lurch. Like, hey, I have a commitment to them I've made. I don't want to leave that. And but Leroy's the father. He's like, nope, I'm going to do what I'm saying. You can't see, your friends are going to be fine. You won't see them until this mission that I have has completed. While they're moving, Lily goes to go see Ingrid, which we learn pretty quickly that Ingrid's name is Ingrid Kirsch, which if anyone has any sort of recollection of or memory of what happened in chapter 1 and 2, Mrs. Kirsch was the old crazy woman that was in the home that looked just batshit crazy. I'll see if I can pull up a photo from that film. That's just Madeline Stowe's character is playing. She's playing the younger version of that. And so there are some ties that she has to Pennywise, whether it's unknown or unknowingly, or if she's quite there yet. But there are things that happen and you're like, I don't quite trust her. So that name immediately rings a bell. We only had Ingrid or the first name before. Now we know it's Mrs. Kirsch. So I was like, oh, Lily, baby girl, please get the hell up out of there. Like, what are you doing? In their conversations back and forth, the idea, Ingrid feigns the idea of saying, hey, if you go to jail, Lily shuts it down. And in that, Ingrid sort of posits the idea of like, well, head down to the sewers yourself. She posited in a way that the kid is kind of like, don't go down to the fire patch. Like, that's what it is. Like, hey, you guys can't go down to the sewers. And Lily's like, well, that's a good idea. I will go down to the sewers, knowing that that's what's going to come out of Lily and these ideas. And Lily runs with it. She takes that back to the crew and is like, this is what we got to do. While she's en route to the crew, Will breaks out of the airbase. He goes like, I need to go for a walk. And then he leaves the airbase altogether. Again, parents, watch your damn kids. It's not a lot he could do on the airbase. And there's only one kid on that airbase. How is he able to just walk out of there? But yeah, he's gone. And then while he leaves, Charlotte gets two pieces of information from the news. One, that the bus transporting Hank had crashed. That the bus crashed. Most of them are dead except for Hank. Hank is at large. He has escaped. So Charlotte gets on the phone and starts trying to make some phone calls to be like, hey, what can we do to sort of help him? Because if they find him, that's a wrap. The other piece of news that she gets is that the area surrounding Neibolt Street has been barricaded and blocked off because of a gas leak. So the military is starting to make their move. And so we see some scenes of them getting set up, prepared, and prepped to go into the house, guns ablazing. All of this is going to end terribly. Of course it is. So Lily brings Marge to the clubhouse, which this is sort of Lily's way of saying, Marge, I told you we're going to keep you together. You're not going to be alone anymore. So she brings her into the group. A little bit of hesitancy. Ronnie's like, why is she here? She's a patty cake. She don't like us. Marge lets her know, like, I'm an ex-patty cake. I've seen what you've seen. I've been through it. We are one now. Like, nobody's separate anymore. It's at that point that the idea of going to the police keeps being posited, and everybody's like, nah, that's not a good idea. So then Lily's like, well, I've got a better idea. Let's go into the sewers. And everybody's like, no. Although you see a quick shot, it's small, but it's enough that if you go back to it and freeze frame it, you see a shot of Maddie looking like, that's a good idea. I like the sewer idea, kid. Let's run with that. even though he tries to push back a little bit to give the idea that he is also against it. Lily then hits back with like, well, you said that you'd rather go to the sewers again than to go to the police and get back with your father. So I'm going to call your BS on that and say, let's do that. She then reminds him, like, look, I re-upped on my mom's drugs. We got a whole bunch more of these drugs that we can take mommy's little helpers. But if we take these, drug up, and then go down the sewers, I think we'll be okay because we won't be afraid. We don't have any fears. And Ronnie's like, well, do we know how many of these to take? And she's like, well, my mom takes these like M&M. So I think we can just pop as many as we need to sort of just be at a base level and be fine. Kids, don't do drugs. Especially don't do drugs without instructions. But they plan to do that and they remove all the fear that they have. And Will shows up just in time to sort of go on this mission with him. So the military goes guns blazing into the house, and like always, when they start off with 10, however many they start off, they start getting splintered off. But they enter the sewers through the well that's in the house with Daniel's help. He knows where they're going. And they're going to go find the 13 pillars. Sounds easy enough. You know, nobody's going to die. We'll be fine. They take Halloran, Dick as well, and then Leroy sort of leading the charge. And then Dick immediately starts hearing things. He gets splintered off pretty quickly. He gets pulled away from the team when they get into this underwater piece. And then he comes back up in a bathtub drain. In a bathtub, and he's in a scene with his grandmother, who also had the Shining. And then his grandfather sort of approaches with a lockbox. And this is basically something is locked inside of Dick that Pennywise is trying to open up, but he's doing it through the grandfather. And the grandfather's like, I know you two keep talking back to each other. I know you guys have the Shining with each other, but you're not going to leave me out of this. Open up this box. What's inside this box? And Dick is clearly hesitant to do so because he knows that got locked away for a reason. I needed to stay there. He may not even remember what it is that box opening does. But it's been locked away in Dickie's soul. He's like, no, we're not opening that up. But eventually it does get open and it releases. And then we just see Dick's brain just kind of just explode and get quite wide. Come back to that at the very end of the episode. And then we start sort of seeing the rest of the officers get splintered off and picked off piece by piece. One of the best ones, it's a use of the CGI, but in this manner it works. We see two officers splintered off, and then in the shadows you see the old Uncle Sam finger come out, and it's like, I want you, like the military posters that always happen. That becomes a manifestation for these two officers before Pennywise kills them and comes out and then opens up his teeth and eats them, letting you know that their fear was joining the military. Like clearly they didn't want to be in this situation anyway, but they did it because that's what the world sort of just imposed upon young men at that point in time. So that was a cool piece to see. So they're entering the sewers, the kiddos are, and they're all drugged up and they are feeling great about life. They're all tripping hard off of drugs. And they're being led into the sewers by Maddie, who, if you pay close enough attention, Maddie is not showing any of the ill effects of the drugs, which is important. Kids aren't realizing that because they're tripped out. While they're entering, Daniel is able to sort of get the drop on the military and separate himself from them while they're firing bullets and crap at him while he's running for his life. He drops the dagger, but he keeps going. He's like, well, I can't stop. I don't know where it's at. It's a sewer. The water is moving. There's no way to keep an eye on where that is. So he just takes off, daggers in the sewers randomly. We then get to a point where it's Leroy and Paulie, his partner that he came with. And Leroy is seeing a manifestation of Charlotte. And he's like, what the hell are you doing out here? But in this manifestation, he can see it. Paulie cannot. And so when it attacks, Leroy shoots it, keeps an eye on it, and then the Pennywise entity scurries away in the waters. And Paulie's like, I didn't see anything? And at that point, Leroy's like, whatever you see down here, doesn't matter what it is, how much you loved it, how important it was. If it doesn't look like it's supposed to be down here, shoot it. Paulie's like, got it. Kill my coach. I will shoot whatever is not supposed to be down here. On the kids' side of the sewer, Maddie leads the kids to a dead end. And at that dead end, the kids start seeing the bodies of Phil, Teddy, Susie first, I think, and then finally Maddie, which lets them know that whatever's up there swinging around on that pole now, that's not Maddie. Maddie's dead. And so then that Maddie starts turning and showing its true colors and showing that it is really Pennywise who has led them back down here. Those kids book it the hell out of there, forgetting Lily. They just leave Lily behind. They all scurry away, go around the sewers while Lily kind of drops down and loses her bearings and loses her track. While they are coming around the corner, Lee and Paulie come around another corner and hear the sounds and sort of in slowish motion. Leroy sees Will and immediately is like, this is a trick. Nope, I know that this isn't real. I know this isn't real. So he trains his gun on Will. Paulie immediately says, no, Will, wait. I can see him too. That's real. That's not a manifestation. And then starts seeing some of the other kids come around too. Leroy don't care at that point. He's like, nope, the last time I had to shoot somebody in the head and it ran away. So he shot, but Paulie is able to get in the way and take the bullet himself. A fatal bullet, because it does end up taking Paulie's life and killing him. Leroy's like, oh crap. And Paulie, I think he says something to the effect of, make it mean something. Like, if I died for this, make it count. Make it count. Leroy puts Paulie on his back and tells the kids to run. Let's get the hell up out of here. Lily, on her end of the sewer, just being left by them. It's funny. Granted, they're drugged up, but none of those kids realize that they are a man down, which is fascinating to me. Technically two, but Lily, for sure, they don't come to the conclusion that they're a person down. Lily, on the other end, is in a dead end and is face to face with Pennywise on the other side. And Pennywise starts, being like, oh, I appreciate you. Like, you convinced everyone to come down here to see me because you are a really, really good friend. You are a terrible daughter. And he has a moment where he flips back to the pickle dad manifestation. Looks a little bad, but it's not the entire scene. We don't live on it. It goes, and it's still in dark. So it looks better than it did in that daytime sequence at the store. And then it flips back to Pennywise. And he runs up to her, with the tics that Pennywise has in this version. And then opens up his mouth to prepare to eat Lily. And then he can't. He just stops. And then all of a sudden we see right below, between him and between her, is the dagger that Tenniel lost. And then he scurries away, ticks back down and scurries away and realizes he can't attack. And Lily, luckily, at least even though drugged up, she is smart enough to realize that, oh, this is what saved me. Part of it probably because it's glowing. But she grabs it and holds on to it. And then we'll assume that she gets out of the sewers because we don't see what happens to her post that. But at least in this moment, we know she's going to be safe enough to get out of the sewers because Pennywise isn't coming back to attack her. Pick back up outside, and we see Ingrid gets into her car. Ingrid, crazy Miss Kirsch, gets into her car. When she gets into her car, Hank is in the back seat saying, start the car and just drive. They pull off, get to a point that's sort of secluded where you can't quite see anything. And they both get out of the car, and then they start making out, realizing that, oh, this is the side piece that he started messing with. This is the thing that he started banging, which makes you wonder, maybe Mrs. Kirsch wasn't so crazy in the chapter 1 and chapter 2. Maybe she just missed having some black boy. And she was just like, man, I ain't had none in a long time. I'm being facetious, but clearly he's not a character to be trusted. But we may not have gotten to that point where that has happened yet. That said, she's like worried for Hank. She's like, look, I don't know what's happening. You can't be here. Come back to my home. He's like, nope, that's not safe either. But there is one option. Reach out to this person. So he sends Ingrid off to go find Charlotte to get some help. And then the last sort of double piece that we get, they're connected because its name gets brought up. Hank is giving a recording to talk about what happened in the sewers and talk about what happened to Paulie. Going over, recounting the statement when they say, like, all right, we have enough. And then Shaw comes in to sort of apologize, for his condolences for Paulie. And then says, he blames the Native Americans for what was down there. He's like, look, we will make them pay for what they led us into. I'm like, sir, you are the one who led us into stuff. How do you pay? But then he's like, I have some more questions, to which Leroy's like, not now. I want to go home, be with my family right now. We can have these questions later. And Charles like, okay, no, understandably. You lost some people. I get it. I'm going to roll out. Before he completely leaves, though, he does ask, like, well, where did Hammer make out? Did Dick make it out of that? And Charles like, he hasn't returned to the base. But if anyone were to make it out of that, it would be Dick. to which we then see a shot of Dick coming out of the sewer. But now he's gone all sixth sense, and he can see dead people because he sees a dead Paulie as clear as can be, standing in the wings. And then we are reminded that the box is open inside of him, and so he now has the ability to see the dead, which is probably going to be even more terrifying. Like, the stuff having to go into the brain was one thing, but now it always sort of being on is going to be a lot more for Halloran to have to deal with. And that is how the episode ends. And bravo. Like, I want to give a slow golf clap. That, hands down, was the best episode of the season. It didn't deal with a lot. Some of it's because it came when it's the sewers, and so everything is a little bit darker anyway. But it didn't deal with overly using of the CGI. When it did use it, it sort of was to accent the scene as opposed to be the scene. I love that we sort of got to the point we finally got to see Pennywise. We got characters to have to make character moments. Like, I think the Leroy seeing Charlotte and then Leroy coming right back to seeing Will, you can see how the fear starts to break up into him, where, like, yeah, he's a fearless man, but the one weakness that he has is his family. And Pennywise sort of playing on that, like, look, if I give him Will next or give him that next after seeing this, he might actually kill his kid. I might be able to get this guy, because it's the one guy that doesn't seem to have any fear. But now Lily coming out of that with the dagger, it's going to be kind of interesting to see if she can talk those kids into going back into that sewer. Probably not. I don't see as a whole they will be able to do that, but she may have to be like, hey, military, I got this. What can we do? But we're in a really good spot. This is where the sweet spot of the show. But the problem is we only got 3 more episodes. So I hope we don't delve back into what we got the first 4 episodes, which weren't bad, but had super highs and some very bad lows. I hope this consistency that we got in this episode continues for the last 3. Because if so, I think we're going to go out on a bang. What did you guys think about this 5th episode of Welcome to Derry, called 29 Neibolt Street? Go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on X at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the place podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.